A teacher gave her class one sentence to finish. I wish my teacher knew. Most kids wrote small things, but one note stayed in her bag all day. After school, Kyle unfolded the crumpled paper and froze. It said, I don't have pencils at home to do my homework. The teacher realized this was not laziness, not excuses, and not a kid who didn't care, so she shared the prompt online. Then teachers everywhere began asking the same question, and children wrote what they had been hiding for years. No food, no friends, no quiet place to sleep. It started with one pencil, but it opened a door into thousands of homes. When the boy was small, there was never enough food. At dinner, his mother would put rice in his bowl and say, I already ate, I'm not hungry. That was her first lie. When he was sick and she had no money for a doctor, she stayed up all night, pressing a cold cloth to his head and said, I feel fine, don't worry about me. When he got into university far away and asked if she'd be lonely, she smiled and said, I have everything I need here. He believed her every time. Years later, sitting beside her in a hospital, he finally understood. She hadn't been fine. She hadn't already eaten. She had just loved him more than she needed any of those things. After a storm, thousands of starfish were trapped on the beach. A little girl started picking them up one by one and throwing them back into the ocean. An old man watched her and said, there are too many. You can't save them all. The girl looked at the endless beach, then at the tiny starfish in her hand. For a moment, she stopped. It did look impossible. But then she threw it back into the water and picked up another one. The old man asked, why keep trying if it won't change the whole beach? The girl pointed to the waves and said, because it changed everything for that one. A group of blind men touched an elephant for the first time. One touched its leg and said, an elephant is like a tree. Another touched its ear and said, no, it's like a fan. The third reached for the tail. You're both wrong. It's like a rope. Soon, they were arguing, each one completely sure he was right. Nobody backed down. The louder they got, the less they listened. But none of them had touched the whole animal. They were not lying. They were not stupid. They were just holding one small part and calling it the entire truth. Most arguments in the world look exactly like this. An old king placed a huge stone in the middle of the road and watched from a window. Rich men arrived first, cursed the king for not fixing it, then walked around it. Merchants came next, complained that someone could get hurt and still did nothing. Then a poor man carrying vegetables stopped, put his basket down, and pushed until his hands shook. The stone barely moved, so he found a branch, used it like a lever, and dragged the rock away. Under it was a purse of gold and a note from the king. This belongs to whoever removed the obstacle. Everyone had seen the same problem. Only one person treated it like his responsibility before it became his reward. A boy's parents thought he was spending too much time gaming, but he was secretly getting pulled into hacking. After finding cheating groups on Roblox, Matthew Lane spent hours learning how hackers broke into systems. While other kids played games after school, he was teaching himself how to exploit networks. He got so good at it that by 15, he was already targeting Fortune 500 companies. To make matters worse, the breach exposed information connected to roughly 60 million students and 10 million teachers. Later, the FBI tracked him down and he was sentenced to 4 years in prison. A baby was sleeping in the living room when the family dog started barking. The father ran in and saw the crib tipped sideways. The dog's mouth was on the baby's blanket. He shouted, "Get away, you stupid dog!" The dog backed into the corner, shaking. Then the older daughter screamed, "Dad, look!" Behind the crib was a broken lamp, still sparking near the curtain. The dog had pulled the blanket away before the fire reached the baby. The father dropped to his knees. For 1 second, he had only seen the mess, not the rescue. He hugged the dog and whispered, "I'm sorry." His daughter said, "Maybe next time we ask what happened before we decide who's guilty." "Why do delivery drivers keep showing up at our house?" "How should I know?" "They're bringing us food, Mason. Did you use my phone?" "You gave it to me to play one game. I got bored, so you ordered pizza and burgers. Anything else? Maybe some ice cream." But this actually happened. A 6-year-old used his dad's phone to order food from several restaurants. Deliveries kept arriving while his father tried to cancel them. The total came to nearly $1,000, and Mason had added a 25% tip to every order. "Do you understand how much money you spent? Did my pepperoni pizza come yet?" This father found his teenage daughter insulting him on Facebook. He carried her laptop into the yard, placed it on the ground, set up a camera, and read her entire post aloud. She complained about doing chores, called her parents lazy, and thought they would never see it because she had blocked them. "Last time, I warned you what would happen." Then he pulled out a handgun. He fired round after round into the laptop until the keyboard shattered and smoke rose from the holes. He simply said, "You can buy another one with your own money." But destroying the laptop wasn't the final punishment. He posted the video on Facebook. "This is how doorbell cameras ruined sneaking in late. First, the kid makes the perfect plan. Come home quietly, hold the keys so they do not jingle, and open the door 1 centimeter at a time. The problem is, the camera sees him before the lock does. Mom gets a motion alert while she is still in bed, so the kid tries walking in from the side of the porch where the camera probably cannot see. It can. Then he tries wearing his hoodie backward. The app still sends a clip of a human crab approaching the door. Before he even touches the handle, the speaker turns on. Nice camouflage. Now camouflage yourself in bed. Dumbest kids who tried to trick the system. Before the final exam, one student paid the smartest girl in class a week of lunch money to photograph her practice test, which the teacher said would match the real exam. He spent all night copying her answers onto a tiny sheet and hid it in his sleeve. On exam day, everything worked. Nobody saw the sheet. He finished first and walked out smiling. Then the teacher called his name. He had copied everything, even the one thing that was not an answer. Her name, written neatly at the top of his paper. A week of lunch money, and the teacher only needed the first line. A teacher handed every kid a piece of paper and one rule: write your biggest problem on it, no names. Then she folded them all into a box, shook it, and made everyone draw one. The room went quiet. One paper said, "My parents are getting divorced." Another, "We might lose our house." Next, "I eat lunch alone." Then came the second rule: you can keep the problem you drew or trade it back for your own. Every single kid took their own back, because once you see what everyone else is carrying, you realize your problem is the only one you already know how to carry. So, would you trade yours? This gamer was still playing with his friends past midnight when he heard popping sounds outside. At first, he figured the neighbors had a fire going in the backyard, so he could have shrugged and queued the next match. But then he saw firelight reflected on his family's car, and one thought stopped him cold. Fire doesn't reach that far. At the back door, he found the house next door starting to burn. He woke everyone and got them out so fast he left with no shirt, no shoes, and no phone. The flames took his home, but nobody was hurt. And sometimes the habit parents fight hardest is the one that saves everyone. What would you do in this situation? You're halfway through college for music production when your parents say they can no longer support a career with no stable future. They ask you to switch into accounting like your older brother, reminding you how hard they worked to pay tuition. If you change majors, your parents will finally feel secure, knowing you have a safe career path and a reliable income. But if you keep chasing music, they admit they may never truly approve of your decision. You stare at the transfer papers on your desk. Your mother asks you one last time to be realistic. So the question is, this is the difference between good siblings and bad siblings. First, there's gaming. With good siblings, they hear mom coming and whisper, "Close the game." The bad one waits until she's already behind you and screams, "He's playing Minecraft again." Level 2 is food. The good one goes to the store and asks, "Do you want anything?" The bad one steals snacks from your room, eats them in your bed, then leaves the empty wrapper under your pillow. But the final boss is borrowing. Good siblings ask, "Can I use your charger?" Bad siblings steal it, lose it, blame you for losing it, then ask if you have another one. Her grandma wore the same coat to every family event. Old buttons, loose sleeves, a tiny tear near the pocket. The girl hated it. So before her school ceremony, she begged, "Please don't wear that one." Grandma smiled and stayed home. That night, the girl found an old photo album. In every picture, her grandma was wearing the same coat. At her mother's wedding, at her uncle's graduation, at the hospital the day she was born. Then she checked the pocket and found a faded receipt. The coat had been repaired 7 times, because every time grandma had money for a new one, she spent it on someone else's big day. This Minecraft player looked at his girlfriend's empty rabbit cage and knew he couldn't fix it. Her pet rabbit, Toast, had disappeared, and every corner of the house reminded her he was gone. So instead of buying flowers or saying, "It'll be okay," he asked Minecraft's developers for something impossible. He wanted Toast added to the game, not as a boss, not as a statue, just as a tiny rabbit she could find again. Most people probably thought nothing would happen, but Minecraft actually listened. They added a secret: name any rabbit Toast, and it turns into the missing black and white pet. His friend laughed and said, "You'll never finish Mario with your eyes closed." Streamer Boopsia took that as a challenge. He put on a blindfold and started learning Super Mario by sound, timing, and memory alone. He memorized Mario footsteps, the timing of every jump, and the sound of every door. For months, he kept choking near the end. Then one run was almost perfect until the final boss jumped 5 times in a row and ruined it. Boopsia tried again. Finally, still wearing the blindfold, he beat Super Mario 64 in 10 minutes and 32 seconds, the fastest blindfolded run in the game's history. When lions killed his family's bull, adults saw 2 choices: lose the cows or kill the lions. But 9-year-old Richard saw a third option. He noticed something strange. Whenever he walked around the cattle pen at night with a flashlight, the lions backed away. Not because of the light, because it looked like a person was awake. So this 11-year-old wired bulbs to an old car battery and a solar panel. Then he made the lights blink one after another around the pen. At night, it looked like guards were walking in circles. The lions stopped coming. His father's cows were safe, and the lions lived too. This teenager decided to build the entire universe in Minecraft. Christopher was 18, no team, no studio, just 9 years in the game. But you can't fake the cosmos, so he studied its real structure. Before building Earth, he jumped from a plane to see it from above, then measured a globe to place every continent to scale, and built the sun from the game's brightest blocks. Then came the black hole, the hardest thing thing he built in 9 years. Even Christopher admitted it was impossible, but he did it anyway, in 2 months, barely sleeping. When he finally finished, 18 million people came to see his universe. A boy was running through the New Mexico desert when he tripped over something sticking out of the ground. At first, it looked like a weird rock. Then he saw another piece nearby. His brother thought it looked like a big rotten cow, but their parents knew something was off. So instead of digging it up themselves, they called an expert. When the scientist arrived, he realized the boy hadn't found a rock at all. He had tripped over the skull of a stegomastodon, an ancient elephant that had been buried for around 1 million years. Most fossils like that crumble before anyone ever sees them, but this one was waiting just high enough for a kid to fall over it. Where's your private coach? Don't have one? Then where do you practice? You wouldn't believe me. Tanitoluwa Adewumi practiced chess in a homeless shelter, where his family had lived since fleeing Nigeria. When he entered his first tournament, he was its lowest rated player. But only 1 year after learning the moves, 8-year-old Tani entered the state championship against 73 other children and left undefeated as New York's new chess champion. His story spread, raising $250,000 and helping his family leave the shelter. In their new apartment, Tani ran from room to room shouting, "I have a home!"